Let's have a moment of silence for those that ain't here right now. I know you probably up in heaven smiling down. You might be gone, but never forgotten. Flowers for the dead.
If you like what you see, please think about or please consider hitting the subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it.
And all our precious memories, I'll never forget. Twin, we've been best friends ever since we were little kids. So I sit and reminisce on all the things we ever did. I remember all the stupid shit I can't forget. Hope God forgive us for our sins and give you the strength to live. Far from sensitive, but I'm shedding tears right now, cause I'm watching you fight for your life and I can't help out. Meanwhile, the doctor shocking your chest, checking for breath. I was with you from the stretcher to the hospital.
The contents of this video falls under the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, Articles 8 and 16. This video cannot be discriminated against. For Aboriginal, Atwatthong, Americans are entitled to fair access to non-indigenous media platforms free of discrimination. Non-compliance is a direct breach of international law.
Okay, y'all, so I waited a while before thinking about doing this video, but since it happened in my stomping grounds, my neck of the woods where I'm from, I thought I had to do something. So this is a Bronx Tale 2018, the killing of Junior. This is my man Alessandro Junior Guzman, right? It's a good kid, wanted to be a police officer. He was with the Junior Explorers Police Department, NYPD. As you can see, he's just a normal 15-year-old teenager in the Bronx. Someone I can relate to. It's tough. Look like he wanted to be a cop. He was involved with a lot of different organizations and stuff. Just a real all-around good kid. Unfortunately, this kid at 15 will never be able to go to a prom. You know, will never do all the things that you do in your older teen years. You know, graduation, all of that. And now a mother sadly loses her child. Now, I'm from the Bronx area, so I know, you know, how the hood is, y'all. How rough it is, and you know what it's like coming out of these streets. But one thing I can't get over is the killing of a little kid at such a young age. Okay? So if you look at the average age of the killers of this kid, it was around, I think the average age was around 20. A few of them were 21, there was a 23-year-old. I think the youngest one was 19. Now what the hell are a bunch of 19 to 23-year-olds doing picking on a 15-year-old kid? What is this all about? Here's a mugshot of most of the kids involved. Now Junior, it was a case, well, we first thought it was a case of mistaken identity when he ran to this bodega to hide from these guys who was trying to, well, he probably thought beat him up, but homeboy had a machete with him, alright, and that's one of the last guys they picked up, and a few of them even fled to Santo Domingo the next day in the DR, yo. They all part of a gang called the Trinitarios. It's a sad story what happened. The Trinitarios, they are one of the larger gangs in New York City now, vastly growing, just like the Dominican population, alright? They started in 1989 in New York City to combat against the other Latino gangs, well, the other Hispanic gangs in New York that were basically picking on the fact that the Dominicans didn't have a large population at that time. You've seen a surge of Dominicans moving to New York City in the 1990s, especially in the late 1990s, to where you have whole entire sections like Washington Heights in Manhattan and Morrisania, Melrose, most of the Bronx in general, most of the South Bronx is now filled up, especially since a lot of blacks and Puerto Ricans have moved out to New Jersey, moved up to Westchester, where I'm from, moved up to the Long Island, and moved up to Connecticut. A lot of Puerto Ricans moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, and out there to Pennsylvania too, to Allentown. So this gang, they had to combat against a few other rivals. Like you had DDP, which is a little bit older. They started in the 80s. Dominican Don't Play. Their name was actually given to them after they get in a fight with a couple of quote unquote Black American kids and shit, where somebody was like, "Damn, Dominicans don't play," and they're known for both these gangs are known for knives and machetes. All right, that's a trademark Dominican fucking thing right there, yo. They are heavy with the machete, yo. Another rival of the Trinitarios is the Latin Kings and the Nietas. Nietas is a kind of like a branch off or break off or like a Protestant version of the Latin Kings. But the Latin Kings are mostly Puerto Rican. But there's other there's other groups of Hispanics in the Latin Kings. But mostly in New York City, for sure, the Latin Kings is mostly Puerto Rican. And that's another gang that started in the jails in New York City. The same thing with the Bloods and Crips in New York. They all started around the same time, which is kind of suspicious to me. All right, but let's take a little trip in the Bronx. You gotta understand the Bronx to understand what happened to Junior. All right, if you don't know the Bronx, you don't know nothing about the Bronx, then you're just gonna be like out the loop and like wondering what the fuck all of this shit. Unfortunately, what happened to Junior is not nothing special. The thing that's different and special now is the fact that his killing was caught on camera. It's so viciously insane. There's a million cameras everywhere in New York now. Every store has cameras. When I was a kid, the bodegas didn't have cameras. They was lucky they had one camera to see when they get robbed, who could rob them. They was lucky that, the one camera footage. But now you got cameras in front of the stores, outside the stores, around the corner when you're coming up to the stores, cameras everywhere. And that's the difference. Just like one of the other differences that a lot of these gang kids are getting caught up in is social media. They talk about who they're going to kill, who they're going to get, what they're going to do. And they like incriminating themselves and snitching on themselves, and broadcasting it. So like I said, Junior's killing is not nothing new. It's a sad fucking killing, but it's nothing new. Here's a map of the Bronx right here. I'm from Mount Vernon, which is just to the north of the Bronx. It bleeds into the Bronx. My family's from the Bronx. My father's family's from Harlem in the Bronx. So I got family in the Bronx. I'm always in the Bronx. I always have been. Here's Morrisania, and Morrisania is a part of the Bronx, and it's probably considered one of the most dangerous. And this map is kind of wrong too, because Morrisania is a conglomeration of different types of neighborhoods. It was an old village at one time. An old city at one time before it consolidated into New York. But Morrisania is considered one of the poorest sections of the country. Not just New York City, not just the borough of the Bronx, not just New York State, the whole country. All right, Big Pun from this area too. All right, from Trinity Ave, not too far from where all of this went down. Really, as you can see, this is how the Bronx looks. This picture right here looks like it's from the 1990s, but this is how the Bronx looks. It's going through a little bit of and here's a more recent picture of the same neighborhood. It's going through revitalization, but it's not gentrified. Unlike Brooklyn, which always have been like, if you didn't know nothing about New York City, you always heard about Brooklyn. All right, Brooklyn, the largest borough. It's been always counted as the real New York. And now, when you want to talk about the real New York, you got to talk about the Bronx. The Brooklyn is gentrified. It's not the same place it used to be. It's not this. The Bronx is where the real New Yorkers is still at, where the accent is still at, and where the blue collar, down to earth, living paycheck to paycheck. That's the Bronx. All right, it's always the poorest part of the city, and it's always where the most downtrodden is at. But and it's also the toughest place to me. You know, we could debate that borough by borough. Brooklyn cats will tell you that it's Brooklyn. Queens cats will tell you it was Queens. Harlem cats will tell you it was Harlem. But to me, it's always been the Bronx. I mean, these streets in the Bronx has always been problems. And we're going to go into a little history of the Bronx because it's always been a really tough place. All right? And if you can't cut it, yo, you're not going to make it. You're gonna get cut down. I've seen dozens and dozens and dozens of juniors. Only difference now is that the cameras. This is a scene from The Bronx Tale. If you ever seen this movie, you should see it. It talks about how the Italians and the blacks were beefing for neighborhoods. When the blacks started moving into the Bronx from the south or from Harlem, the Italians had a problem with that. And they had their little gangs who harassed us. And they harassed the Puerto Ricans too when the Puerto Ricans and the Cubans started moving into the Bronx also. So as a result of that, this was like the 50s and 60s. So as a result of that, the Bronx got really wild by the 1970s. When you had all these street gangs, mostly black and Puerto Ricans, who joined together to kick the Italians' fucking asses. You know, we couldn't beat the mafia, but their kids would not fucking fuck with us because we had to be vicious. You know, my pops was in gangs like this in the 70s. You know, everybody, if you was in the Bronx, you had to be a part of a street gang. All right? Like, LA gets a lot of credit for the gang culture and this, that, and third. Same thing with Chicago. There's very little talked about, you know, New York street culture. All right? And the hip hop, yo, another big part. Because it got so wild in the 70s, by the late 70s, the early 80s, we tried to shift ourselves into something different, all right? As you can see, there's another street fight, you know, going on in the Bronx between the gangs and whatever and shit. You should see the movie Rebel Kings. That's a good movie. The Warriors is kind of a pop culture version of that, but you know, a lot of these movies will paint a picture of the Bronx at this time. You know, to get down. You see a white boy right here, he holding his own, yo. You had to be tough to be a white boy in the Bronx in the 70s. All right, here go homeboy dancing, doing his damn thing, doing his damn thing on the cardboard. You know, a lot of kids did not want to do they did not want to do the gang thing no more. You know, there's a lot of killings, a lot of stabbings and shit. It was vicious back then because one thing about the New York City is because it's hard to get your hands on guns. Not hard to get your hands on guns, but you know the times you do and shit like that. A lot of the gangs have, you know, they stab, yo, they stab and they cut, man. It ain't no joke, you know, because it's, you know, you can do 7 years. I know now you do 7 years if you get caught with a gun with no bullets in it, you know, that's automatic time. So, you know, and it's always been like that because of the violence in the city. Another thing about the Bronx that like I said is crazy is the poverty. All right, the Bronx County has been the only county, or the only place that had been at a state of emergency just based on the poverty and all the fires and shit. Like landlords started like fucking burning their buildings down, even if they had residents in it, because they didn't want to pay the insurance on the buildings and shit. Yo, the buildings wasn't making them no money. Rent was next to nothing because they couldn't charge nobody, couldn't get nobody in there. You can't get no investments. I remember the Bronx when it looked like this, when there was rubble everywhere, and you could still find a few blocks fucked up, like this fucked up. Like there probably was like 4 or 5 buildings between here and that building, you know. And you know, kids used to run through the rubble, yo. And this happened all the way up until you seen this shit all the way up until damn near the year 2000, man. From the 70s through the 90s, man. This is like the Charlotte Street area. It looks totally different now. They built some houses and shit over there because they didn't want to build tenements no more. But yo, it was crazy. It was crazy. You know, I played through rubble before in the Bronx. So, you know, I'm telling you, yo, it's crazy. Yo, it's definitely changing, but it's still the Bronx, all right? So to give you a little overview of how the Bronx works and shit, and how there's always been violence and street gangs. And to me, Bronx is all America City, yo. It really is. There's nothing more American than the Bronx, all right? That's just to me. There's nothing more American than being on the Grand Concourse or being on Fordham Road, you know. no matter if you don't even hear a word of lick of English for 20 or 30 minutes, and it's been like that. I'm half Puerto Rican myself. Everybody in the Bronx is from everywhere, and that's the slice of America. Now back to these goons right here. This right here kind of effed up the Trinitarios too, because they're mostly a drug gang. All right, I know a lot of Trinitarios, yo. I'm still trying to be good in the hood, so I'm not gonna say nothing bad about them. From what I heard, from my sources on the streets in the Bronx, is that these dudes were kicked out the gang anyway prior to this, and that they was trying to get on good favor with the leader of the gang or something, or the branch of the gang, and that erstiness might have been why they did such a sloppy fucking killing. I mean, usually especially with the Hispanic gangs, they don't do sloppy killings. All right, they don't do sloppy killings, y'all. To tell you the truth, all right. So that might have been the reason why they were so urged. Another reason is a lot of these kids, especially the ones under 25, under 30 years old, with this social media and this clout chasing and shit. Because one thing I'll tell you, man, New York is not like other cities. We're not like LA. We're not like Chicago. All right, we're a get money city. So people don't get murdered unless they have to. All right, some places they like fucking they love being a murder capital. To me, when your city's a murder capital, you're sloppy as fucking hell. All right, because you got a lot of dudes in jail for the step on my sneakers in front of the club shit. That goes on a lot down south. All right, and I lived down in North Carolina and shit, and I lived in Mississippi and a couple other places. I seen that shit. We don't do that up in New York. I don't want my block hot if I'm hustling. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. And I know the Trinitarios very well. I got a lot of friends in there, and they do not like their block hot. Rest in peace to Junior right there. And the girl right there, you see the one that's the short girl in the doorstep. Now she's getting confronted, because you set this boy up, and you have to live with that for the rest of your life. A lot of people feel like she should be locked up. I mean, we gotta watch with laws and shit, because now, I mean, if that shit goes that way, where she could be locked up for doing that shit, then it's like, where does it end at? Where you can just, I said I hate this person, I wish he would be killed. Somebody go out and kill him, and you go to jail for that, and she didn't. I'm pretty sure she didn't know they were gonna kill him, but she should have known how her brother and whatever family members act. Here's Carmelo Anthony paying his respect. Carmelo, who's I think half Dominican himself, and Lala is his wife, half Puerto Rican. Out there in the Bronx, showing their respect, yo. The killing, it was so brazen and on TV and shit like that because of the cameras that it's drawing a lot of attention. Like Cardi B, who gets a lot of fucking flack, yo. Cardi B put up money for her funeral. His funeral, you know what I'm saying, helping the mom out. Because like I said, the Bronx is the working man's space, man. This is not a place where you have a lot of money at, and funerals are expensive as hell, man. So Lissandro, yo, rest in peace, bro. Yo, man, it's messed up what happened, bro. The Bronx is rough. It really is. You're not the first, and you're not gonna be the last, but you're definitely not gonna be forgotten. And your killing might make the streets safer for a little bit. The Bronx is always gonna be the Bronx. All right, I don't think they could ever gentrify the Bronx because just to how the Bronx is built and how the Bronx is. It's not close enough to downtown. It's a long subway ride. As far as it's uptown. Uptown's always gonna be uptown, man. It is. It's out the way. People get scared when they come up out the subway and you're on the L and you see these project towers and shit. You in the Bronx. It's different, At least Brooklyn had this access to downtown Manhattan and Midtown. The Bronx don't. The Bronx is uptown. The Bronx is always the hood. The Bronx is always going to be one of the poorest areas of the country. So, and the Bronx is even though it's on top, it's the heart of New York. So you're always going to have gangs. You're always going to have immigrants. You're always going to have everything because the Mexicans is coming in hard in the Bronx now. So we're going to be seeing, unfortunately, you're going to see another Junior. This time, maybe next time, maybe Mexican. You never know. You know, I love New York, and I hope New York gets, you know, I hope we don't fall back to the crack era, because I lived through that, and that was hell, yo. So peace, everybody, yo.
It's kinda hard with you not around. Know you in heaven smiling down, watching us while we pray for you. Every day we pray for you, till the day we meet again. In my heart is where I keep you, friend. Memories give me the strength I need to proceed, strength I need to believe. My thoughts big, I just can't define. Wish I could turn back the hands of time. Us in the six, shop for new clothes and kicks. You and me taking flicks.